Ever wonder how artists go from unknown to unforgettable? The University of Arts and Design just launched How Artists Become Known. It's a free seminar series, and we're starting with Van Gogh. Watch now at uad.education. Welcome to the Make and Design podcast. I'm Carina Gardner, and I was just thinking about how it's been a long time since I talked about how I actually became a designer. It was a series of incidents and mistakes and probably lucky circumstances that brought me to the world of design, because I actually had no intention of being a designer. When I was little, my mom really did encourage me to take art classes. She even paid for some private lessons that I did with one other student in someone's home, and she would introduced me to different art movements. So we would look at Van Gogh or Monet or Picasso, and then we would do some illustrations related to that. And so I've always liked art history, I think, because of that. And then, of course, I was a total crafter as a kid. I mean, you guys know the story. You're probably the exact same way. I broke so many sewing needles on my mom's machine, but she was actually very good. My mom is Chinese, and she very much had a hands-off attitude about us in the household just playing with stuff. So I would just sew away and figured out how to get that needle all the way in. She had scraps of fabric everywhere that we would use, and I just had a pretty creative childhood. And so I think because of that, I really hoped for my own kids that they would also just feel free to do anything they wanted. I feel like, especially my oldest daughter, who is actually autistic, has really embraced that. She's in college now, and she has really taken a loving hand to crocheting. She crochets a lot, and she's doing so much sewing. I sent her up with her sewing machine last semester, and she does a lot of handwork and sewing, and it's been fun to see her just working on her own projects. By the way, she's not in graphic design. She's actually in animation. So it's been really fun to see her do her own thing. Okay, all of this to say, when I look back at that, I'm like, okay, I had all of the things there that maybe would have suggested that art or design was something that I might do in the future. But cue high school, and I was on the speech team, and I really loved speech. It was my favorite thing, and I think it's because of the teacher I had. You guys know that teacher. That was my teacher for me. She influenced so much because I just felt like she was so logical, and she was so kind and helped me build these phenomenal oratories, and I just really loved it. And so because of that, when I went to college, I decided I was going to get a communications degree because I wanted to keep doing that. I really loved it so much. In that communications degree, I actually started working in their continuing education department. And it's funny to even think back to this because last week we just released the University of Arts and Design Continuing Education Department. And you know how things in your life come back around? This feels like that moment where, I was working in continuing education while I was an undergraduate at BYU, and now we're in the middle of building a continuing education department at my university, the University of Arts and Design, and it just feels interesting. It feels like kind of this cool moment in time where I have to remind myself, Carina, you're building a university, and oh my gosh, we have all these components. Remember when you went to a university, right? So anyway, working in continuing education, decided that I didn't have the skills necessary in the marketing world to be good at design. And I was in communications, so it really felt like the thing that I would be doing is coming up with the full composite of an advertising feature. But what I found was, because I didn't have the skills, I was basically creative directing without, anything behind me. And so because of that, I decided to go get a master's degree in design. That was really the next step in my process. While I was at BYU, they had, this is back in the day when we had computer labs. So none of us had, any of the programs on our own computers. Our own computers could barely handle much at all. And I would go in, I'd reserve an hour, and I would be in Photoshop trying to get my ads to look a certain way, or I'd be an illustrator. And I remember just crying over the keyboard when I couldn't get something to work or I couldn't figure out where it was going to go. A lot of times people will say, oh, well, like you have a ton of education, Carina, so you must have been taught, how to use the programs. That is not the case. First of all, I was in an era where everybody was self-taught, even the professors, because we were all figuring it out. I always love telling the story about when I was teaching at the University of Minnesota. I was teaching the original, the graphic design foundations course while I was working on my master's degree. And quite literally 2 weeks before the semester began, they pulled cork from us. And so we all had to teach InDesign. So we were all learning InDesign as we were teaching the students InDesign. And that's just the way it went. In fact, it's not that different than what I'm feeling right now about AI. Right now, I'm literally in AI 10 hours a day, trying to get it to do all the things I need it to do, sometimes crying over it. And then we go and we teach those scripts to our university students. We're teaching in coursework. In fact, we have a course at the university called AI Mastery Suite that we're also doing through Carina Gardner Inc. That you can check out if you want. That's an AI course. And it's what we're learning as we're going, because this road or this train track, it's being built as we're doing it, right? Like the track is being built in front of us as we're trying to move along. And so because of that, it's reminded me of those early days of Adobe software and Quark software and all those other softwares as we were trying to figure out how the best way we would be designing. So I had actually no intention of getting into design for the sake of design. I had an intention of getting into design to go work at an advertising firm. I thought that's where it was at. In fact, I remember my senior year, there was an acquaintance of mine in the communications department who was going to New York for the summer, had gotten an internship at one of these advertising firms. And I remember being so envious of her that she was going to go do that. And instead, I was staying at home and I was just working. And the following year, actually, my husband and I went to Mozambique, Africa, and I did a senior research topic and thesis where I wrote about the signage in Maputo, Mozambique. And that's when I decided to go do a design degree. And I didn't quite realize back then that master's degrees and PhDs really are research-based. And because of that research I did my senior thesis on, the University of Minnesota, there was someone there who recently passed away, and I'm so sad to see her go. Dr. Barbara Martinson, she ended up being my mentor at the University of Minnesota during my master's and my PhD. And she saw my research, and I think that was probably the tipping point to getting me into that master's degree program. And she brought me in as her research assistant, and she asked that I bring all the research with me. And I showed it to her, and she said, "This is the thing I'm very interested in you doing, in checking design in these advertising areas and around the world, and us looking at these things together." It was just a really wonderful experience. And so I did my master's degree, and I thought that was the end. Turns out, not the end. After I did my master's degree, I had a baby 2 weeks after I finished my master's. I also finished my master's very quickly. It only took me 3 semesters. Why? Because I guess I was in school mode. And so I was just, hopping along, finishing my thesis, writing it as fast as I could. I did a T-test and worked with short-term memory and logo design for my thesis, and took a semester off because I had a baby and it was my first one, and found that I was just a little bit bored with one baby. And so what do? I call Dr. Martinson and I basically tell her, hey, like what else can I do here? I mean, of course I could teach, but she was like, well, why don't you come back and finish your PhD? Your research was really great, and I would love to see it in a dissertation. I said, well, how long will that take me? And she was like, well, I'm just looking at your stuff right here. You only have 3 classes and a dissertation. Okay, so let me do the math for you actually on that, because 3 classes and a dissertation is not 2 semesters like in my head I thought it was. 3 classes and a dissertation, if you do it short realm and you do it very fast the way I did, and just as a reminder, my 2.5-year master's degree took me 3 semesters to do. Okay, so like I'm pretty fast. The PhD would take between 3 to 7 years to do. So 1 semester, I finished all the coursework. And then I spent the last 2.5 years writing my dissertation and doing all the research for that and writing that book. And it was really awesome. So it did take me 3 years to finish my doctorate. I was young because I did this straight through. So I don't know that I was the youngest in the program, but I was pretty young to be in this program and very pregnant both times, which is funny as I think back on it. In fact, I finished my PhD and 10 days later, my second was born. I love telling people the story of my dissertation hearing with my committee. I actually started having contractions and was slightly concerned that I was going into labor. So, and here's the crazy thing. I think my committee loved it. I think they loved it. I think they were so cool about it. I think I was like the only pregnant woman on the whole of University of Minnesota campus. And everyone was so good to me and brought me presents, and we're so excited for this new baby. And it was really, as I look back, a very fond time for being in a state of pregnancy and finishing my research for my dissertation. Okay, all of this to say, as I think back, it really was a series of interesting decisions on my part, and just kind of life circumstances that made it so that I would go get a master's and PhD in design. And while I definitely didn't leave the marketing world behind me, I definitely did not do with my master's and PhD what I intended to do, which was go into advertising. I thought I'd work for an ad agency. I thought that would be the world that I would go into. Instead, I had these 2 little children at home, a newborn baby, a 3-year-old, and living on student housing campus. My husband was still working through school. I started teaching adjunct faculty at the University of Minnesota, and decided that I wanted to stay home with my kids. But I had spent a lot on education, and so I was going to have to do something with these design degrees. And so what did I do? I cracked open a Dreamweaver book, and I built a website, and I started selling digital scrapbooking products. And looking back, I see how all of these different things have come to create this amazing, fruitful experience for me. But I also want to say that whatever story you have right now, all of the experiences you bring to the table when you become a designer, when you build a design or an art business, those experiences, they come along with you, and you don't know how they're going to affect you. I had no idea that finishing my PhD at the age of 27 and deciding to crack open that Dreamweaver book and build my first business was going to be the beginning of a multi-decade design business career that I would build for myself, and that I would build up this career and become a creative director and build a paper company and build a kids company and create fabric lines and die cut lines and create paper and design for dishware and jewelry. I had no idea that this is where this was going to take me. And fast forward to now, if someone had told me even 5 years ago that you would own a university, Carina, I would have told them they were crazy. Why would I ever do such a crazy, crazy thing? And here I am. We just celebrated our 2-year anniversary at the University of Arts and Design. And we're building a university the way that you're supposed to, with real, ideas about what our mission is, how strong our mission is, how we're really trying to combine and create an interdisciplinary world for our students and give them something extra special that we've never seen in the market. I always compare our design business master's degree to an MBA, except for we go like 10 steps further. And that is, you have to actually build a design business, and you do it in the program, and you do it instead of a thesis. And it's not a simulation, which is what we see at a lot of MBA programs. It is real work building a real business. And I think it makes for a very interesting, big disruptor in the university world. I'm going to tell you that building a university has been the hardest thing I've done. It requires a lot more detail to intention, a lot more attention to politics and state governance, and federal governance than I ever expected. And also has felt like the thing that the last 18, 19 years has been leading up to. And I'm so proud of our students. We have been showcasing them in a lot of different ways. We just last week had the UAD Design Smarter Summit on YouTube. If you want to go check that out, 8 students did presentations on their businesses, on things that they were doing. And we kind of let them go for it. There's a great freebie link if you want to get what they're doing. It's awesome. You just go to youtube.com and look up the University of Arts and Design. We have a channel there. And I like all of this to say, you guys, like, you're like, this has been a long story, Carina, to say you don't know where your path is going to take you. You don't know where your path is going to take you. Every little decision you made along the way brought you somehow to this podcast where you're listening to me talk about the magic of these tiny decisions we've made in our lives that lead us to where we are right now. And that PhD, for many years, I thought, why did I even do that PhD? I own this design business. It's been awesome, but I didn't need that PhD. Guess who needs a PhD to start a university? Me. And the reason I was able to start it was because I had a doctorate and I had the credentials necessary in order to start a university. And I feel really grateful for that. I didn't know that it was going to be for this reason that I would have a doctorate. And so I think that, a lot of times people are asking nowadays, well, Carina, why do I need a degree? And I always tell people, I don't know. I don't know why you would need a degree. Truth be told is you can build a business without a degree. I've been teaching designers how to build design businesses without degrees. It is possible. You know what the degree does? It really isn't about the degree. I think you and I both know that. It is actually about what you accomplish because you did the degree. So when you go to school, when you take a class, you actually do the work because you're graded on the work, and then you get a grade for that class. I own, you guys know, another program, Design Suite. We actually it will be sunsetting in 2027. And we don't allow anyone to go into that program now. So we just have a small group in there that I love working with and will continue to work with until we close it. And not everyone in Design Suite over the last several years have a design business. Why? Because they're not graded on it, because they're not forced to do anything. They come into the program and they do it the way they want to do it. Now, Design Suite was absolutely the beta for the University of Arts and Design. Like, I learned so much through what we did in Design Suite that there is not a chance I could build this university if I had not done Design Suite first, because I saw what worked, what didn't work, the courses we need to offer, what was actually going to get people into a design business understanding. And so we were able to build this really phenomenal certificate program and master's degree that were tiered, that really made a lot of sense. And so because of that, I think that we have created something really exceptional, because we basically were able to pre-test it, right? But other than that, the degree itself, yes, it's wonderful for you to put on your resume as a credential. Yes, it's very important. But more than anything, the degree gets you there because you're graded on it and because you actually do the work. Because our mindset is different, even though you could have done some of the things that we do at the university, you could have done in Design Suite. What you do at the university is graded and you take it more seriously. And I don't really understand why that is, but we just do. We take it more seriously when we're going to get a good degree. And I will say this, 100%. 100% of the people who graduate with an art and business design certificate or a master's of arts and design business own a design business when they graduate from the university. I could not say that in Design Suite, and I doubt very many digital programs out there can say that. And that's why I'm so proud of the university, because what you actually accomplish is so huge. And so I guess all I've got to say here is that whatever magic that you've put together in your life, all the experiences, all the things that have led you to this place, don't take it for granted. Take it somewhere. Make more of these small decisions in your life that get you to where you want to be. Building an art business, building a design business, creating more art, creating more designs, doing creative work. That's a really, really powerful thing. And I hope that you really embrace that and that it's a really beautiful experience for you. I hope you enjoyed this. I think it gives you a little background on me that I hope helps. And I can't wait to see you soon. Want to hang out more? Go to designsuitecourses.com/free to get our weekly freebies and patterns, die cut files, and more. Can't wait to see you there. I have a gift for you. My third book, The Intentional Design Year, is out, and I want to give you access to read it. To get the digital copy for 1 month for free, go to www.designsuitecourses.com/intentional. Make sure and do the www. Because for some reason, that's the only way it will work. Anyway, this will get you free access to read the book for an entire month. If you love it, you can always go to Amazon and get the whole book plus the prompt journal.